It's breaking news for you now. Former Metropolitan Police Officer Adam Provan has been sentenced to 16 years after being found guilty of 8 counts of rape while serving as an officer. I'm going to go straight to Mark White, our Home and Security editor, who has been following this story throughout, and he is live now outside Wood Green Crown Court with the latest. Mark.
These are offences which in some cases date back to 2003. Allegations against one woman, a serving Metropolitan Police officer, that she was raped 6 times by this former officer, Adam Provan, between 2003 and 2005. And then a girl, 16 at the time, when she was raped twice by this serving Metropolitan Police officer in 2010. Well, today at Wood Green Crown Court, Adam Provan has been sentenced to 16 years in jail, an extended prison sentence handed down by the judge for these offences. Effectively, of course, an abuse of trust in his position as a Metropolitan Police officer. He used, the court heard, the powers, that position of trust, to try to win the confidence of young women in particular before going on to rape them. And in that extended sentence of some 16 years, there is also 8 years additional that he will have to serve on licence. So he will be free, but on licence, meaning, of course, that he can be returned to prison at any time should he offend. This is, without a doubt, another hammer blow for the Metropolitan Police, coming on the back of recent scandals of very serious sexual offences. You remember back in February, David Carrick, the Metropolitan Police officer, convicted of raping multiple women, a total of more than 80 sexual offences he was convicted for. And then, of course, Wayne Couzens, convicted, sentenced to a whole life term in prison for the abduction, rape and murder of Sarah Everard in 2021. Well, unusually in this case, one of the victims of Adam Provan, Lauren Taylor, has waived her anonymity. She has been named and she has spoken very bravely on camera to talk about her ordeal, to talk about, first of all, how angry she is with the way in which this officer abused his position of trust.
Angry at what he done to me. I'm angry about who he was. You know, he was a police officer and we go to them to be protected, and I wasn't protected, and I can only blame him for that. You know, he done this to me, no one else. And I'm angry for the lack of remorse that he's shown throughout this whole process. I've been to court 3 times, you know, he still fully denies what he's done, and I just feel like even after being in prison for a certain amount of years, he's not had time to reflect and he's not changed. You know, he's still who he is, and that was more the reason why I did the last retrial, was because I wanted to make sure that he didn't get out and, you know, harm anyone else.
Well, Lauren Taylor is a woman in her 20s now, but her life has been forever changed by the ordeal that she went through. And added to what this police officer did to her back in 2010 is the fact that this young woman had to go through 3 separate trials to ensure that this man is finally behind bars serving a proper sentence. She was scared at first to come forward. In 2016, she did come forward. There was a trial, but the jury couldn't reach a verdict. It went to a second trial, and she testified again. He was convicted, but then that was overturned at appeal and went to a trial in June of this year. So speaking on the fact that she had to go through 3 separate trials, clearly she's also very bitter and angry about that.
I was always going to fight so hard for my justice, and I think more because of who he was, being a Metropolitan Police officer. You know, he misused his job and treated people like terribly. So I feel like I had to do everything I could to put him back back in prison. So, I mean, it hasn't been easy, and I think this has been probably the most traumatic time to go through it. I think because I had the guilty verdict, you know, got overturned, and it was just really disheartening. It's like repeating a nightmare over and over again. It's it's been a lot.
Well, this whole case came to light, as I say, through the bravery of Lauren Taylor when she came forward in 2016. After the trial had gone to a retrial, it was at that point that this current serving police officer came forward to put her case forward to the prosecutors to allege that she had been raped on multiple occasions. That proved beyond reasonable doubt when the jury came back in June and found this former serving police officer guilty of all the charges. A terrible ordeal for both women, and Lauren Taylor says she's not sure she'll ever be able to recover from it.
I had that justice and it went, and now I've got it back, and that I'm obviously so thankful for that. But I'm also really angry for having to redo that again. So, yeah, I feel like it's been hard, but yeah, I feel like one day I'll get there at a point where I'm like, fine, it's over. But at this time, it doesn't feel like I can let go just yet, just in case.
Well, during this trial, the court was told about a history of predatory and inappropriate behaviour from this former police officer while he was a serving police officer. He had 751 female contacts in his phone, many of them young, and according to the prosecutors, he showed very inappropriate and predatory behaviour towards these women. There were two complaints, one by the officer who finally alleged rape. She alleged in 2005 that this officer was harassing her. It doesn't appear that the Metropolitan Police did anything significant in response to that particular complaint. Also in that year, another officer, another serving police officer, complained that she was the victim of unwanted and nuisance text messages from this officer. Again, it doesn't appear that there was anything significant that the Metropolitan Police did. In fact, the judge in passing sentence here said he was very troubled by the fact that police officers seem to be more concerned with protecting one of their own than listening to the allegations being made by a fellow officer. So, as I say, Adam Provan has now been sentenced to 16 years in total. Once he gets out of prison, he will be on licence for a further 8 years. If he offends, he can be returned to prison at any time.
Mark, thank you very much. Mark White there, our Home and Security Editor.